Reactionary people. Okay, what do you mean by that? There's a reaction right there. Reactionary. What do you mean by that? I'm not going to just pick on the left or the right because there's reactionary on both sides. What we see with the mainstream media right now is everybody is fake news but them, but yet they keep getting caught in lies. And when they get caught in lies, people get really pissed on one side, and then on the other side, and they react to that. And then when they, the other side, they want to double down on the lie because they can't admit they're wrong. They react as well, which leads to an insolvency of left versus right, up versus down, gay versus straight, all these things. And people have become reactionary. The problem with reactionary is, like social justice warriors, is Donald Trump's president. No! Pulling their hair out, whatever. They can't handle it. Again, if anybody can find me the suicide statistics of the amount of people that have committed suicide just because Trump won the presidency, I'd be really interested, just because I know what's happening. I know what's happening. Why? Because these are reactionaries. These are people that will do this because they're so dumbed down and brainwashed into their ideology that has become dogmatic, like a religion. Basically, progressivism is basically the new communism or cultural Marxism, but it's also the new religion. They just displaced. The left is deeply religious. This is why you can't reach them with facts, logic, and reason. Is because they're incapable of processing that. They cannot. And that's why when they can't process, when you tell them something they don't want to hear, that they basically, the progressives, leftists, progressives, whatever. I won't use liberals because true liberals are you're starting to see people that, no, I'm no liberal, I'm not progressive. You're starting to see the segregation, which is good. True progressives, if you look at the dictionary, is nor left nor right. It's whatever benefits people the most, right? That type of thing. So the thing is these people that are really deeply ingrained in this radical ideologies, doesn't matter if they're on the left or on the right. But the social justice warriors, SJW, social justice warriors, and other ones like them, that are out there rioting all over the place or whatever. Most of them, if you come up to, I'll probably say her name wrong, but lovely girl, Brie Farceau, it's a French name anyway. She went to one of these women's marches, okay? Now, she did a really kind of a Mark Dicey kind of way of going about things. But she pretended she was on their side, very clever of her. And she started baiting them with questions and to see what they, like, oh, Trump, he's so bad, he's so horrible, whatever. And then the girl goes on and on and on. And they're like, yeah, we're here because we're down this. And each person she interviewed a good sample there, like probably 10 people at least, 15 people. And she would ask, well, you're a Hillary supporter, right? They'd be like, yeah. Can you tell me what her best achievements were? I mean, this is a woman that's been in office for 30 years. You think these people would find something? No. Now, that said, you tell that same person, and she walked away from there and go, oh my God, like, this is so depressing. Like these people are protesting, they don't even realize they're protesting. So that's a great point there, because the reason why they're protesting is because it's part of their religion. This is why they go into these mantras. The mantras are chants. They're, no more hate speech, no more KK USA, Black Lives Matter, whatever it is. These are mantras, these are chants, these are religious chantings. These are religious chantings. On the right, you don't really have that yet, but it will get there at some point. But the true right tends to become, the reason why you don't see or hear from them is because the true right typically are more libertarian. They don't engage, they're more individualistic. That's one of the problems libertarians don't understand is the communists will never leave you alone. So you're putting individualism above all else, and liberty is great, but you have to understand these people don't want you to have that. That type of thing. And the only way that these people can get what they want is through reactionary. Screaming, crying, whatever. So when you tell them what they don't want to hear, they don't have an argument. They can yell racist, bigot, xenophobe, homophobe, this, phobe, that, phobe. They can do that. The next thing they can do is shut it down, shut it down. And you hear them yelling it, shut it down, shut it down. And if that doesn't work, then they go into, nah! So basically, they're basically operating one notch above autism or mental retardation. I'm not saying they're mental retarded or autistic, but they operate the same thing where they can't process reality. The left does not like reality. They like social construct. That's the main building blocks of their entire platforms is social construct. And because of that, the only thing they can do when they hear what they don't want to, and they have no argument for it, is freak out. They go, ah! Now, most of them just curl up in a ball and start sucking their thumb and screaming and pulling their hair out. Some might jump off of buildings. Again, I would really like to know what the suicide statistics are for the anti-Trumpers. It must be something. It's going to be ridiculous. But you're dealing with brainwashed people. They're no different than a North Korean defector. They don't know how to function in the real world because they've never had that. They're brainwashing them. Now, the other problem is the ones that these are angry people to begin with. But these reactionaries are turning violent. They're turning into Trotskys or Bolshevism 2.0, if you want to. That's kind of been the running theme right from the January 2nd when I did my 2017 Bizarro World prediction. This is what we're going to see. We're going to see these people really come out of the woodwork like you wouldn't believe. They're already there to see, but now they're getting very violent. Why? Because their whole identity is being put on the block here. That the whole leftist narrative is coming down. That people are rejecting it. They don't want it. The masses don't want that. The silent majority has spoken. They voted for Trump. Even with Jill Stein going out and doing all these recounts, everywhere she did had recounts done, more votes came out for Trump. And it exposed, like one area exposed like people voted like 5 times for Hillary Clinton, like dead people voted. It was, so and Trump is going to quail that, and he's going to go back to all the elections, not just this one, but he's going to go right back as far as he can to find the voting fraud. Now the thing is this also I think is a flush out to find out how the voting fraud is taking place. But the thing is when we rescramble the numbers and recrunch the actual real numbers, Trump won by a landslide on both the Electoral College and the popular vote. He probably won by 2 to 5 million people. I mean, the numbers just keep going up in favor of Trump because they keep finding all these scams. Now, the reaction to that is, oh, that's just right-wing news, you're this and that. Okay, fine, yell, whatever. But when you look at the numbers, you're going to see that it keeps going. And the mainstream media, they hush it down whenever they find that they're wrong. So, that type of thing. And then when the people find out that they're wrong, that they've been lied to, that their ideology has been basically crushed on, well, they react in 2 different ways. Either they curl up in a ball and need to be hauled off to the mental asylum, or they lash out at people. And this is where the reactionaries become very dangerous. And we're seeing, for example, the other night at UC Berkeley, I was in town when this happened, and then I got home, and I had just done a video on understanding the Black Bloc protesters type of thing, and who's coming next after them. Remember that coin? On one side of the coin, the other? So on this side you have leftist, Marxist, progressive, communist, whatever, left here. Well, the other side of that coin is going to be neo-Nazis, and hardcore nationalists and stuff like that. That's the other reactionaries. Now, if you want to be somewhere in the middle, that's fine. But if you're caught between these 2 groups, especially when the neo-Nazis actually start coming out, and they will start coming out in the droves. You never hear from neo-Nazis. You never hear from those guys. Why? Because they don't want to engage with it. But these people will encroach on that, which will spark backlash. And that backlash, that's the next group of radicals that are coming out. Yes, the neo-Nazis are coming. They are coming. And that's going to be terrifying. Because these... And I've been warning about this for a couple of years now, that you will see it. And we're not there yet, but we're going to see it because of the reactionaries of the left. That they're just going to get these people so riled up because they're in that violent Trotsky 2.0 mode where they're out there. They're if you're a Trump supporter, they beat you up, man or woman, it doesn't matter. They will hit your child if beat up your child if they have a Make America Great Again. These people have lost they have no identity right now. Their world is completely being shaken. So they're in revolt mode. They're ready to hurt things. They're ready to burn things down, tear it all down. They have no other normal logical way to respond because they're not logical to begin with. They've just been told, it's like telling a Christian saying, you know that God guy you're talking about? Yeah. Come here, I want to show you something. And then you find out for the first time that God isn't real. Okay? Whether you believe that or not, it doesn't matter. Let's say you take the most West Baptist church type people and you just prove to them that God isn't real. These people, they'll probably just collapse on the spot and die. Literally, they'll just die of shock. And you can die of shock. It'll just be like, over you go. It's not even a heart attack. It's literally dying of shock. It's very rare. It happens. But it can happen. And it's like those fainting goats, but like one step up. So basically, this is what you're doing to these people. So they're only going to respond because their brains can't rationalize their whole world being torn down. So they can only resort to violence. And it's a reactionary violence. But radical begets radical. So the next group of radicals coming out to stomp these guys out, yes, will be neo-Nazis. You might not see them for a year, year and a half, 2 years, whatever. but they're coming. And I alluded to that in my understanding the Black Bloc protesters. Again, basically, it's this one coin. On one side of the coin here, one kind of side of the coin here, you have opposing ideologies, but the methods and the employment of rationalization that they use is the same. So it just one side picked this, one side picked that, but tomato, tomato. There's still the same thing. There's still the same thing. So radical begets radical. So hopefully people understand it. So the question is when you're dealing with somebody who's reactionary. Well, the best thing that can happen to you is you can have an audience. Otherwise, just move along. If it's just your one-on-one, you could say, here's my points, put your talking points out, okay, whatever, we'll see you later. You're wasting your time. But if you have an audience, you're not trying to reach them. You're trying to reach the people around that are listening. You know, and you're going to have, and the thing that the leftists do is, as soon as you go to speak, they you got the blowhorns, they might try to hit you with mace, they might try to do. Now, physical violence, I'm all for self-defense. And you have to understand that the right-wingers, they're big on self-defense. So these Trotskyist leftists, they're going to get their asses handed to them. Yeah, maybe in these protests where they can all gang up or whatever, but yeah, they're going to end up getting shot. I mean, some people have already gotten shot already. That's going to be the reaction of a right-winger to these radical leftists. You want to hit me with a stick, I'll shoot you. In the States, anyway. In Canada, we don't have that. But we're not as crazy divide and conquer yet in Canada. But they're trying to push that stuff up here too. George Soros money goes everywhere, right? And technically, George Soros runs Canada, according to John McClellan, his good friend. And we see all the narratives of the United Nations Agenda 23 and so on. It's all divide and conquer. Now, the thing is, the people who have the eyes to see, the ears to hear, and understand what's going on, you want to understand how to move around it. And at some point, yes, and I've heard some people on the right say this, at some point we're going to have to find a place where we can't live amongst these people. They're just insane. And they are. They are insane people. And you might even, but what gets me, where the proof is in the pudding of this, is the amount of people now that they call neo-Nazis and all right now. I mean, since Trump's been elected, there's been this huge rise in neo-Nazis that are not really neo. It's just, if I disagree with you, you're a Nazi. If you're an alt-righter, you're a Nazi. It's not true. It's just not true. Because if you're conservative, you're a Nazi. If you're libertarian, you're a Nazi. If you don't agree with third-wave radical feminism, you're a Nazi. You darkened your toast too brown this morning, you're a Nazi. Or the Russians did. And the Russians are Nazis. Those communists are Nazis. Yeah, that's the way these people rationalize. Yeah. Again, the slogans, everything. So you understand that, then you understand you've got to get around it. You can't. There's no point going through it because it's a reactionary. It's pointless. It's insolvent. There's nothing you can do. The best thing you can do is use it as a platform to educate others. The 80% of moderate people that are hopefully in the middle. Hopefully those numbers don't go, because 10% radical on the left or the right is just dangerous to humanity. The problem is there's a lot of factions fighting. So the reactionary types don't, and you do see some people on the right get baited into the reactionary, and that's what leads them to neo-Nazi, hyper-nationalist. All that is they become so radicalized because of the reaction to the other thing, when they could stay more moderate and be more productive, and still achieve, better than what they wanted. Better, they won't go counter, because once you start countering your own through reactionary and being reactionary, starting to counter your own argument and giving up ground that way, then you have to rethink your ideology, or you have to rethink how you engage with reactionaries. So first off, it's best just don't engage with them at all. But if you have to engage, make sure you have an audience, have your talking points ready, have your facts, logic, and reason. Some of those people don't expect to convert them on the spot. It's not going to happen. Not going to happen. But you might reach them 6 months later. And that's typically what you hear about from these people that were radical. Look, you'll hear it all the time. I was a radical leftist just like a year and a half ago. And now I'm looking at it and it's oh, okay, starting to get it now. It takes time to deprogram. I mean, you have to understand this social leftist cultural Marxism and social engineering has been going on very hardcore for the past 40 to 60 years. You're not going to do that overnight. And there's a lot of that establishment that is in play now the paradigm is shifting. And you typically get this about every 8 years where a civilization will either collapse or it will shift to another paradigm. Wild West to the Industrial Revolution to, moving on. That type of thing. So these things, it's just something, for people to look out for. So I guess I'll leave it at that. So just watch out for the reactionaries. Don't become a reactionary yourself. Sometimes you can catch yourself doing it. I do it myself. It's only human. But catch yourself on it, discipline yourself, learn from it so that you're not caught up in it all the time. If not, you'll be out in the streets protesting against insanity. And I'll just leave you with this. Trying to figure out the rationality of a crazy person will drive you insane. So instead of trying to do that, try to use them to medicate others. So, look at it as a blessing. Don't get mad at these people. Stay calm, collected. Say your piece. But remember, you might get 2, maybe 3 points max out before they just go for shut it down mode because they don't have arguments. That's why they go, they make noise, whatever. Say your piece, move on. Hopefully, it medicates somebody else around that they don't become radical. So anyway, if you like this kind of content, please consider making a donation to the channel. Links down below. Thank you so much to everybody who has. Next to that, rate, subscribe, share, comment, like. Be true to yourself, be true to others. Always do the right thing. And have yourselves a great day, eh? All right. Understanding reactionary people. Okay, what do you mean by that? There's a reaction right there. Reactionary. What do you mean by that? I'm not going to just pick on the left or the right because there's reactionary on both sides. What we see with the mainstream media right now is everybody is fake news but them, but yet they keep getting caught in lies. And when they get caught in lies, people get really pissed on one side. And then on the other side, and they react to that. And then when the other side, they want to double down on the lie because they can't admit they're wrong. They react as well, which leads to an insolvency of left versus right, up versus down, gay versus straight, all these things. And people have become reactionary. The problem with reactionary is, like social justice warriors, is Donald Trump's president. No! Pulling their hair out, whatever. They can't handle it. Again, if anybody can find me the suicide statistics and the amount of people that have committed suicide just because Trump won the presidency, I'd be really interested just because I know it's happening. I know it's happening. Why? Because these are reactionaries. These are people that will do this because they're so dumbed down and brainwashed into their ideology that has become dogmatic, like a religion. Basically, progressivism is basically the new communism or cultural Marxism, but it's also the new religion. They just displaced. The left is deeply religious. This is why you can't reach them with facts, logic, and reason. Is because they're incapable of processing that. They cannot, and that's why when they can't process, when you tell them something they don't want to hear, that they basically the progressives, leftists, progressives, whatever. I won't use liberals because true liberals are you're starting to see people that, no, I'm no liberal, I'm not progressive. You're starting to see the segregation, which is good. True progressives, if you look at the dictionary, is nor left nor right, it's whatever benefits people the most, right? That type of thing. So, the thing is these people that are really deeply ingrained in this radical ideologies, doesn't matter if they're on the left or on the right. But the social justice warriors, SJW, social justice warriors, and other ones like them, that are out there rioting all over the place or whatever, most of them, if you come up to, I'll probably say her name wrong, but